Dearest members of the media, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's that time of the year. A pleasure to welcome you to the traditional now press conference of FIBA Secretary General Andreas Zagklis. Welcome to you as well, Andreas. Many thanks to all of you joining from all around the world. A lot to talk about today, as 2024 was definitely a great year for basketball. After some opening remarks by the Secretary General, we will then open the floor for your questions. But before we start, a couple of housekeeping rules. In principle, you can only listen in. If you have questions, you should raise your hand. You can also use otherwise the Q&A to let us know that you would like to ask a question to the Secretary General. Please, it's very important that we need to identify you. So make sure your name is on your profile, because if we don't know who you are, it's difficult to give you the floor. And once you're given the floor, you need to join as panelists. So please activate your camera, and of course, unmute your microphone. We will try to accommodate everyone. Will depend on the time, but hopefully everyone will have an opportunity to ask a question. Please, to start, go for one question per media. If you still have more questions at the end, we are happy to give you the floor back. Time to start. Andreas, the floor is yours for your opening comments.
Thank you, Patrick. Hello from my side. Welcome to this press conference. Thank you for joining us today. We've had a year that is closing, a year of records, a year of many firsts on the side of men's basketball, certainly for excellent Olympic qualification tournaments, arguably the best ever, leading to an Olympic basketball tournament that was certainly of the highest level ever. A number of records broken in Paris, above all the record of ticketing, with breaking the Atlanta records, having 40 games less. And this is certainly not only an achievement of our players, but also an achievement of the organizers that we would like also to thank, as well as our national federations. So almost 10% of the ticketing of Paris was basketball. A fantastic showcase of our sport, coming on the back of the World Cup, where we had 32 teams. We managed, thanks to the OQTs, to have again 32 teams involved, 24 plus the 8 that had been already qualified. On the floor, you see the gap is closing. We had favorites struggling, favorites losing, and certainly what we saw in the windows, the top 50 getting closer to each other. We saw the Olympics that also the top 20, the top 12 in this case. Virtually everyone can beat everyone. I would, of course, not forget the fantastic window in February 24, starting the Continental Cups, with the first time of aligning the calendar inside the FIBA family, and certainly anticipating the one of February again, even if in November we didn't manage to get this full alignment again. For the women's side, what we believe is a golden decade that opened after Australia 22 World Cup is where we believe basketball scored so highly this year. The OQTs in February, 13,000 in Antwerp, record of all time for team sport women in Belgium. A game that against USA arrived to the wire, and the same happened in the Olympics, with a final determined by a last-second shot. And in the Olympics, seeing Australia getting the bronze, but either having lost in the group to Nigeria, and certainly a number of countries confirming their placement at the top, like Belgium. Of course, France's performance is fantastic, both men and women. Very important first for us, first in Mexico, Africa, as the road to Berlin 26, the Women's World Cup started, and we're there to open new markets for basketball worldwide. On the club side, the first year that we have 3 BCLs, BCL in Europe, BCL in the Americas, and BCL Asia, having a very successful West Asia Super League with 9,000 fans in Doha, and then in UAE, the finals of BCL Asia, having teams from around the continent. Very important for us, first, the ICC in Singapore, first time all 5 continents there, with a very competitive group of teams from all continents, the champions of the NBL, Australia and New Zealand, first time joining us, G League United, more competitive than ever, fantastic Malaga, one of the top teams, certainly outside the NBA, winning the trophy and then going a few days later to win the Super Cup in Spain. I would not, of course, forget the first fully neutral Final Four in BCL in a neutral venue on the glass floor, where BCL made glass floor mainstream. And then now it's part of our life, a FIBA innovation that is now being adopted by a number of clubs. On the rest, it may surprise you, but it's the first time in our history that at least in the social media era of FIBA, the growth in the year of the Olympics, which was very good, was not as big as the growth in the year of the World Cup. So we have now more than 57 million followers on all platforms, and we had 5 billion views on our social media, while last year we had 6 billion views, certainly something that the Central Board last week discussed, and we continue to believe in the showcase and certainly outreach potential that the Olympics give to the basketball side of our sport, and we are very happy about that. At the same time, knowing that the World Cup is the priority of this house. 3x3 leaving its first year of Olympics with audience, a fantastic atmosphere on Place de la Concorde, record-breaking year in terms of events and in terms of social media following, a year where if you would separate 3x3 social media following and you would say, what would this be if it were a standalone international federation? It will be the 5th biggest international sport federation of the Summer Olympics based on our metrics today. So you see that 3x3 is having its own success, not anymore piggybacking on the success of basketball. Certainly a year where we push further on our project of diversifying our portfolio with the eFIBA, our esports side on NBA 2K, knowing that the IOC approved for next year the first esports Olympic Games, and we're planning to be part of that. We've applied, and we are in the forefront of these developments, participating in their respective meetings. And tonight I will be flying to Philippines, eFIBA World Finals in the country, in the city that hosted our major event last year. So we're closing 24, we're opening 25 with 8 fantastic continentals in Nicaragua and in Chile, men and women Americas, in 8 countries, 4 and 4 in Europe, of course, Riga for the men, Piraeus for the women, in Shenzhen for Asia Cup women, and Jeddah in Saudi Arabia for the men, and Angola, a traditional powerhouse, hosting Afrobasket, and Cote d'Ivoire, the women. So we're very, very excited what is coming. Of course, a February window before that, and certainly the road to the World Cup for women, since we will get the 4 continental champions out of that. So happy to take your questions, and thank you also for your support and following of our sport and promotion this year.
Thank you for those opening words, Andreas. So we can start. We go to the US with Joe Barden from The Athletic. So you know the drill. please join as panelists, accept and activate your camera and unmute your mic so we can hear you. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Patrick. Good morning, Andreas. It's 8 o'clock here in Cleveland. So this is about as well as I can do at this time of day. It's great to see you guys. I did have a few questions, but I'll follow Patrick's guideline and just ask the first one here first. How serious do you think the NBA is about NBA Europe, and what is FIBA's involvement in it? And then if you could also just discuss like what challenges or concerns that may be for the existing professional structure in Europe if it were to come online?
Well, I think the question of how serious the NBA is should be asked to the NBA. I can tell you that, as you already heard from my colleagues in the NBA, there is clear interest and there are ongoing discussions with FIBA. And it is part of our job, of course. We've been having and we continue having ongoing discussions with ECA, the company operating the EuroLeague. What is important for us is that FIBA has a very consistent approach. We want the growth of our sport. At the same time, we want to protect what are the fundamentals of our ecosystem, which not only relate to the basketball rules, of course, and the calendar, but it is a question of respecting the national teams, the national leagues, and that goes to you, the part of your question relating to the structure. We have a very well developed ecosystem of national leagues, and certainly protecting the work not only of a few clubs, but of almost 500, 600 clubs that are the pyramid that produces players and that has brought the sport and FIBA basketball where it is today. So the next months will show where we're heading in this matter. I would not call it NBA Europe because NBA Europe is something that has existed. It's the presence of NBA in Europe through a number of activities, including friendly games, preseason games, or in-season games. But it is something that has been on our radar. We tried to bring everyone together. This was not possible. So our job is to continue having conversations, serious conversations with our partners at the NBA as well. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe, and we'll be back to you if you have other question. I promise. Thanks for respecting the rule. Let's move to France. We have Sami Sadiq from L'Equipe who's joining us for the next question. Sami, please activate your camera and unmute yourself after joining as a panelist so we can welcome you in the call. You need first to accept as a panelist. Otherwise, we cannot get you on the screen for your question. Maybe a little bit of a technical problem, but I'm hearing it's on the way and you are here. Brilliant.
Thank you very much. Sorry for the delay. Good
No worries.
Sami Sadiq for French.
Hello.
I had a question also related a bit to the NBA, but the step before that, this summer we saw many international players, young international players joining universities in the NCAA, and many clubs are complaining that there is not a kind of a system of financial compensation to retribute them who have trained these players like before turning to the NCAA and later maybe the NBA. I wanted to know, it's a big topic in France, and I wanted to know if it's part of discussions with the NBA to create something like that to compensate the clubs, and if where are those discussions if they're existing.
No, thank you for the question. I think there are two levels. One is in relation to players going to the NBA, yeah, and the second is in relation to players going to NCAA. I think the first one has been on our radar for a longer period. The second one is an environment that is changing. With relation to the first one, yes, we have, and it has been also part of our conversations with our leagues. When I participated in the recent assembly of ULEB, you know that there is a very close and good working relationship between FIBA and ULEB, the Union of Basketball Leagues in Europe. And they have concerns on both. And it has been also part of our conversations with ECA, with EuroLeague. When it comes to the NBA, this is part, as you know, of the collective bargaining agreement. And there is a set buyout amount that is being paid. And this amount is one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is that a player, in order to play in the NBA, needs a letter of clearance from FIBA. So FIBA protects the interests of the clubs because the contract that they have, the buyout that they have, has to be paid. Of course, we are very well aware that since the new club can pay up to a certain amount, what happens to the rest? Do the players have to get loans themselves, or do the players in an earlier stage of the process request lower buyouts from their clubs in the negotiation? And this is where I believe we can certainly improve, and that is on our radar, how FIBA can get for our teams higher compensation payments for the players that arrive in the NBA and really earn a lot of money. This is certainly on our radar, and it is also part of our conversations with the NBA, not the ones I mentioned just now, but it has been part of our conversation with the NBA for a longer period. Please remember that there was a new collective bargaining agreement a couple of years ago and a new media agreement. So I think now we're better positioned, knowing more, having less moving pieces of the puzzle now to be able to discuss that. What comes to NCAA, this is now a growing concern, and it is a concern from different stakeholders. For that reason, and according to the FIBA statutes, I've created an expert working group, and I'm happy to announce that its creation was endorsed by the Central Board on Thursday. It includes 30 representatives from FIBA commissions, the president and the vice president of the competitions commission, and a legal expert, but it also includes a league. We have a representative of the Spanish league, a club, a traditional training club, and that is the club that is now leading the ranks in Turkey and hosted the Youth BCL last year. And we have from the Americas a coach that is also cooperating with the federation, coach of the under-17 girls, because it's a problem for the men, some say, but it's also for the women. I would really recommend you look at the International Basketball Migration Report that FIBA published a couple of weeks ago. You will see there that we have in Division 1, 826 boys, men, who are non-US players, so internationals, and 828 women. So we need to very carefully look at this trend. It was less than 730 last year. And this increase is not always something to worry about, because for some of our clubs and leagues and federation, it is a good step to go to NCAA. But for some others, it is not. It is not perhaps in terms of quality of our national leagues. The players leave too early. It is certainly not good because some of our clubs are not getting compensated. And it's certainly not good when the players do not have a stable academic career there, because they go there now much more for the financial side than the academic, as it used to be the case. So we're in the first phase of the analysis. At the same time, we have institutional FIBA NCAA conversations on how we can solve it. But what we also need to see, we are on this a secondary regulator. The primary regulator is the NCAA, and now the primary regulator is in legal disputes, and not one, two of them, which are pending. So we need to be protecting, fencing around the FIBA ecosystem without putting shackles on our players from developing. And that is a balance that now our expert group will submit recommendations to the Central Board for the Congress in spring. So we're looking at it very closely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sami, and congrats on the very nice background. We move now to Japan.
With Travis, no?
Yeah, we're gonna welcome from Yahoo Aoki Takashi on the call for his question. Please accept to join, unmute yourself, and also activate your camera. And here you go.
Hello.
Hello, konnichiwa.
Hello. Thanks for taking my question. Bit different subject. There are a lot of discussion about rule and officiating. The current rules allow only one head coach challenge per game, whether it's successful or unsuccessful. Is there any consideration for the rule change in the future that would allow the right to exercise only one more time if the challenge is successful?
Yes, there is consideration for that. We are now evaluating how the rule was applied in the first essentially year and a half of its implementation. At the same time, we are receiving a lot of feedback, especially from fans, who are extremely important to us, that the game is slowing down too much. And in some of our leagues that allow more than what is the traditional FIBA by now challenge rule, we have seen even more complaints that the game is taking more than 2 hours 15, 2 hours 30 minutes. So we need to balance here between fairness and a good result, which you can never guarantee 100%, and a good product for our fans. So if you ask my personal opinion, I think the game is already slowed down a lot. We're getting, if not on the border, we are very close to that. So I don't think we will expand the rule for challenges too much. But whether we give you the one that you won back or not, I think this is something that our technical commission will evaluate.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your question. We move now to Greece. We have Aristeis Katsidis from superbasket.gr that will join the call to ask his next question. Good afternoon.
Hello, good evening from Greece. Kalispera σας κύριε Zagklis. Hello. Thank you for accepting my invitation. Appreciate it so much, and I wish you all the best for the future, above all health and success. My question will be about the hosting of the Eurobasket 2029. Yeah. FIBA announced that 8 countries are in the running as host candidates, including Greece. I would like you to tell us more about your plan for the event. How will be the format be? If the format of the 4 countries will be followed as in recent competitions, what will be the key points to choose the countries? Is there anything you want to bring in this event in 2025 and also in 2029? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I first of all need to thank the countries that expressed their interest. It is very important to see that following the pandemic and the challenges we've had in allocating the big events between 2020 and early 2022, we're now back up to speed, and the attraction of Eurobasket is there. Also, the attraction of Eurobasket women. I remind you, 2 weeks ago we had a vote at the board of Europe for the 2027 Eurobasket women co-hosts. So I feel, first of all, that and I supported very much the 4 groups, so meaning the 4 different hosts for both men and women. It helps us spread out the sport across Europe. There is certainly a level of investment that goes from FIBA into federations that is now giving fruit. We have more and more federations that can host, that have the capacity to host big level events, and that is also thanks to the experience from the windows and the fact that governments see the benefits of hosting the Eurobasket. I think it is public knowledge that we're heading for a decision towards the end of spring, beginning of summer in 2025. Why? Because it is always good when you execute an edition to have the next hosts observing, shadowing the current hosts. I think the roster of countries is a very good mix. It has traditional powers like the ones you mentioned, and it also has some new countries or some countries that are hosting less frequently. It is a decision of the board. I think certainly the narrative, the infrastructure, there are very clear directions in the bidding documents how and what we expect from the countries, and then it's a decision of the board, and I have a vote, but I cannot use it. So it's perhaps the only time that my nationality plays a role in my FIBA role. So this is the expectations we have. Certainly, it is the top event in Europe, and as we are very happy in good hands now for 25, the roster of the 8 makes us very confident this will be a fantastic tournament. What we should say is that our European budget has already made a big investment next year to have one more rest day for the players, and that is the important aspect. And having a president in Europe who is a former player himself, as you can imagine, played a good role in that, and the executive director himself as well, both former national team players. And you know how I am prone to player-friendly measures as an attorney for players in the past. So we will do that. It costs us a lot of money, but it is an investment for the players. And in 2029, we would like to try to avoid back-to-backs, but we'll be able to confirm that. And I think I will leave this announcement for my my vice president and president of Europe, who will do that when he shows the envelope with the winning countries next year in May or June.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We can move now to Motorsport. We have Nikola Stojkovic, who's the next in line to join us to ask a question to the Secretary General. Nikola, please make sure you accept the invitation to join as panelist, and you will appear on the screen. That's the case. Perfect.
Okay. Yes. Good day, Mr. Zagklis. Good day to everyone. As always, it is a pleasure to be present at the end of year conference. So my question may not be directly related to FIBA, but it is related to basketball in Europe, which is very important to many of us. So how do you see the increasingly evident expansion of European basketball into the Middle East? We have Dubai, who plays in the Adriatic League. The next EuroLeague Final Four will be played in Abu Dhabi. Do you think that that's a good thing for club basketball in Europe in general?
I cannot comment on the Final Four because there's, as far as I understand, no official statement on that. So I think it's only proper that I let my colleagues inform us, and I guess, as it usually happens, I will be informed before the public about this, and then I can say what I think I should say, but I first want to see what the project is. When it comes to the other projects you mentioned, I feel very strongly that there is a lot of untapped potential in Europe. I believe basketball in Europe is punching much below its commercial potential. I'm not accusing anybody. I'm just saying this is a fact, and we have not managed as a family to get to the real commercial value of what basketball can bring, despite the fact that the top competition has been growing and growing its calendar over the last 8 years, 8 seasons. I do believe, and FIBA has shown it by opening new markets inside Europe. I believe there is a lot more to do in Europe before looking outside Europe. That is what I've expressed, and I continue to express. I think there is a lot of appetite in Central and Northern Europe and in Western Europe for basketball that we are not benefiting from for our club's ecosystem. And the world champions are Germany. France played the final of the Olympics and hosted the Olympics, and we have games in London which are not games of our top leagues. So to name a few examples, and I'm not even mentioning Scandinavia, and I'm not even mentioning Poland and economies that are strong like Czechia and Hungary, for example, that are attracting top-notch events. So we're not in Rome, we're not in several other big cities in Europe. So if you ask me, that needs to be the focus of the European basketball family, and that's why I applauded my colleagues in FIBA Europe when we took recently the decision in the board to award to Zaragoza 3 EuroLeague Women Final Fours. We need to stabilize the product and to grow the product. So that is what I believe for this, which I do not consider, to be honest with you, an expansion. I consider it, I would say, an opportunistic look. So if it happens, I hope it brings a big increase in the salaries of the players. But if it happens, I will have a few other things to say as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicola, for your question. We move now to Arina Ershova from championat.com. Arina, please activate your button to join as panelist, camera and sound, so we can welcome you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello, Patrick. Hello, Andreas. Thanks for having me today. I was actually present at the last year's end of the year FIBA conference, and I had a question about the participation of Russian national teams in international tournaments. So this time around, I think it makes sense for me to ask if there is any progress on the matter, if there are active talks maybe with the Russian Basketball Federation, if anything has changed basically in that regard since last year.
Thank you. When it comes to participation, the Central Board decided last Thursday to extend the current status until the Central Board in May, where we will have the Congress. There are continuous and active talks with the Russian Basketball Federation. The federation, I remind you, as well as the Belarus one, are not suspended. They have their active status, and the Central Board includes Andrei Kirilenko, who was co-opted in this role already last year, so after February 2022, and he is a respected member of the FIBA family. There is no doubt that we need to wait for the bigger geopolitical picture. As important as we may consider basketball to be, unfortunately, in this case, there are many more important things than basketball to take care of. There are lives being lost on a daily basis, and there are peace talks or a road to peace that we all want to see happening and a peaceful result achieved. FIBA has continued its very significant support of the Ukrainian Basketball Federation. And I remind you that Ukraine played in the OQTs for 3x3, so they were on the path for the Olympics. Our job is to try, within the remit of our competence, to bring all 212 member federations to participate actively in our competitions. We are following closely what is happening in football. You have seen that Belarus continues to play in UEFA competitions without major issues. So this is for us something difficult to to digest, if I may use this word, because the young boys and girls in Belarus can play football, but not basketball. So this shows that there is some room here for us to analyze the situation further. But right now we are in a framework of IOC guidelines that FIBA has accepted and has agreed to work under. So we will see, and I would say that we will have developments when there are also advances on the geopolitical side, and our priority will be the young players. And will it be in Europe? Will it be with those in Europe that Russia can play? In Belarus? Will it be with Asia? Will it be with a combination of the two? I'm telling you, we are ready for a good solution for basketball and for the youth of Russia and Belarus. That is our job, but there are others who need to take more important decisions first, and then I can tell you FIBA will do its job.
Thank you so much, Andreas. I have one more question, actually. I was told when I can ask the second one. Should I wait for it or can I ask it now? Patrick, can you please confirm?
Go ahead, Aina. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. So as a woman myself, I wanted to bring up this topic and ask what plans does FIBA have to further develop women's basketball all around the world, not necessarily in just Europe? And how does FIBA plan also to draw attention to the upcoming 2026 World Cup for women?
Thank you. Well, it's not very difficult to understand how important this is for us. You just open FIBA strategy and you see it's one of our first priority pillars, to empower federations, women in basketball, and to shape the club competition landscape. So it is an area of major investment on the part of FIBA. For us, Berlin 26 is as pivotal as China 2019 was for the men's side. We have two great venues, a host that is very motivated. Germany obtained the right by presenting not only a host candidature, but also a 10-year plan for women's basketball in Germany. And we saw the results. They played Olympics. And for us, the first 3 years were years of increasing the numbers, the quantity. We had more women referees than ever before. We had more and more women coaches in our top competitions. Now we need to start focusing also on quality. Berlin 2016 will have 16 teams, but 24 will play the March 26 Olympic qualification tournaments. And another 16 played in Mexico and Rwanda this year. So we are very strongly pushing for a stronger middle class. We want to go further. We want to have higher quality games. Paris was a fantastic platform, a fantastic trampoline for women's basketball, with more than 20,000 average attendance in the games and breaking several records. We are now investing in the coaching and mentoring women's coaches. We want them to start coaching more and more men's teams, and this is fundamental. We had more women referees than ever in the Olympics. We had first-time women referees in the Men's World Cup, and we have, for the first time ever, besides EuroLeague and EuroCup women that are FIBA competitions in Europe, WBLA, Women's Basketball League Americas, WBLA Africa, that is being played this week, and WBLA Asia, that was played in China a month and a half ago. So we're investing strongly. Our relationship with the WNBA is improving as part of our FIBA NBA relationship, and we're making very good steps in the direction of having the best players in Berlin in 2026, with also big development. Now, one of the things that we need to also announce, I think today, is that the Women's World Cup will be the first one with single room policy for our players, providing what we provided in the last World Cup for the men, so immediately for the first World Cup for the women, and it will be the first one with fully painted floors, no stickers, which is a major step by FIBA and our partner Junkers. So we are, of course, very, very ready to welcome the stars. Some of the stars are bigger stars than our male stars, and that is where the Continentals next summer and Berlin 26 provide us a fantastic trio: Paris, Continentals, and Berlin for the Women's World Cup, because that is a necessity for us. If the women's game does not grow to get closer to the men's game, we will not become the most popular sports community in the world, which is our vision.
Thank you so much, Andreas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arina. We are going back to Serbia. We have Nemanja Stanjovcic, who's next in line from Mondo, who will join us to ask his next question to Andreas. Nemanja, welcome to this press conference. Please accept to change the role and become a panelist, and then you will appear on the screen so you can unmute. Okay, seems there is a small technical issue, so we can go maybe to the next one. Poland, we go to Poland, we go to Julia Borowczyk from Polsat, who should be able, hopefully, join. Julia, same exercise for you, please. Accept to become a panelist to join the call. There you go. Only unmute and you're in.
We cannot hear you.
Right. So, Nemanja, please wait now because we have Julia already. So we stay with Julia first, but we cannot hear you, which seems strange because you are muted here. At least we see the side.
Okay, I understand. It's okay. Don't worry. Had some technical issues.
So Julia, can you unmute?
She will.
Okay, so you can be back. So Nemanja, you are on. We need to be flexible.
It's okay. Thank you. I had some technical issues.
The coach changed his mind, Nemanja. The coach changed his mind. You're on. So.
First of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be part of this conference, and wish everyone happy holidays and to enjoy part with family. My question is about Serbia, as you can expect since I'm from Serbia. There's been a lot of talks lately about Serbia forming a strong Serbian competition, a KLS competition. New President Čović has spoke about it. So my question to you is, even in case if that happens, if we become strong Serbian competition with Partizan, Red Star and everything, do you plan to open the doors, invite and, get Serbian clubs in FIBA competitions in the future? And have you maybe had some conversation with Mr. Čović about it?
If this happens, my answer will be finally. That will be my reaction. And the second reaction will be, of course, the champion will have the right to participate in the BCL. Now, exactly where depends on the ranking, but I think this improves every year. So there is no doubt that a stronger Serbian league is much needed.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Nemanja. And we try again with Julia. Hopefully, we will have more luck with the sound this time. So, Julia, exact same thing, but with sound this time, hopefully. So you can ask your question. We don't see you appearing on the screen. There you go. Okay, seems that you have a... Okay, please type your question in the Q&A and we'll try to get your question.
I thought we had sound for a moment. Can you try talking to us? No, it doesn't work.
Okay, no worries. We will get your question. Please send it to the Q&A It's there already. Great. So let me just get it.
Try. It's in the chat, in the Q&A.
Sorry?
What is the future of 3x3 basketball in Europe?
What is the future of 3x3 basketball in Europe? Is that the question, Julia?
Okay, good. Thank you. I guess you have seen and witnessed the success in Paris, and I still remember in Tokyo we welcomed the head of state of Poland, but in an empty venue, and he was very glad to hold a 3x3 ball, and when we explained to him how the sport is the sport discipline is played. 3x3 is well embedded now in the Olympic program. We are looking, of course, ahead towards the next World Cups and LA 28. There is no doubt that the growth requires us to ask, and we will continue asking the IOC for more spots in the Olympics in order for us to be able also to have universal representation from all 5 continents. What is the beauty of 3x3 is that we have not only annual Europe Cup, but we also have a special qualifier for smaller countries. And the countries that have understood how 3x3 is operated with the World Tour and Women's Series on the professional side and the national teams on the other side understand that essentially every country member of FIBA can have a competitive FIBA 3x3 team. And we saw that in the World Cup the year before, Madagascar challenging and even beating at the end France playing the following year the final of the Olympic Games, or Mongolia leading in the OQTs twice, Mongolia men leading in the OQTs twice with 3 players, not 4, and missing the last shot to go to the Olympics. And many other examples. Again, when Latvia in 2021 won the gold medal, we said it's a non-traditional basketball country until, of course, the basketball side went to Manila and finished 5th. And now we have Netherlands as world champions. So for us,
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So can I add something to my questions? Because
yes, because I would like to understand
sorry for like
from your question.
problems. Yeah. Because I think in Poland we developed the 3x3 basketball very well, and we also got like special league that 5-on-5 teams has to have 3-on-3 team. It's obligatory, and they are playing some tournaments between national teams break and before the season for 5-on-5 starts. And were you thinking about creating like maybe some independent national leagues with 3x3 or force 5-on-5 teams in Europe to create also 3x3 teams? So that was basically my
Yes. Okay. In terms of structure, every country has to choose its own model. We have countries that focus on 2-3 teams, professional teams, they finance them, and these are essentially the national team. You go World Tour, Women's Series, you invest in 2 teams, and then below you go grassroots in the schools. So you do the work on the very top and on the very bottom, because 3x3 in the schools is fantastic. You have 12 kids with 2 balls instead of 10 kids with 1 ball. Simple math. Now, what Poland does, what the federation does, is also a good way. Also, the Czech federation did similar, bringing the clubs into the mix because they have infrastructure and they have players, which are for us the target group. And that is, I think, the important aspect in your question. Our target group is the players between 19 and 23. That's why our big investment goes into the Youth Nations League with under 23 and under 21 teams. Those who decide to focus on 3x3 decide on that period. And that's why we stopped quite consciously under 17 and under 18 in 3x3. You play, you learn the fundamentals for basketball, and you develop to be a basketball player, and then you choose which of the 2 disciplines, Olympic disciplines, you play. So both systems are fine with us, and I think Poland, having qualified organically to Olympics, knows how to do it. And now one day I have to convince Sokołowski to lead the 3x3 team now and stop playing basketball. But this is his decision, not ours.
Thank you so much.
After Katowice, maybe.
Thank you, Julia, and we're happy that we could even hear you at the end. Let's move to the next question for George Yeolimpos from Sportsin. George, please accept to become a panelist so you can join the call and ask your question to Andreas. Always takes a few seconds, but you are here.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, Mr. Zagklis.
Good afternoon.
I will focus again to 3x3 because I follow the development and the growth is very fast and was a big success, as you mentioned, in Paris. And now it's coming LA. LA is a town where the street basket is very developed. What do you expect that this transfer from Paris to LA, a town and a country of basket, will give you as an advantage in the development of 3x3 until the 2028?
I think we have two steps until LA. First is Dakar. And in the Youth Olympics, as you know, the sports program is smaller, but 3x3 is part of it. And 3x3 will have their 12 teams, which is very important for us because 12 teams is what we would like to see also in LA or latest in Brisbane, but we are already applying for that for 2028. The numbers we have received so far from Paris 2024 are very encouraging. The TV figures in France, Germany, Netherlands have been fantastic. And it's not every day that you can see a 3x3 basketball player on the front page of political newspapers in their countries. We do believe that 3x3 makes our sport more democratic, allows countries of smaller population and countries with less infrastructure have the Olympic dream alive and have it very accessible. That is why we believe that with Dakar, we'll open the door for more Africa teams to develop. And certainly I expect African teams to fight for a spot in LA. LA is the city of white men can't jump, for those who love our sport. Therefore, there is little doubt that 3x3 will be followed very closely and loved by the local audience. We already had our first meetings with LA 28. Soon we will be in a position with them to announce the final location. And I think the experiment, if I may say, for Olympic purposes, but not an experiment for FIBA, because we had done it before, of bringing action sports, urban sports together is worked very well in Paris. And perhaps we can see something similar in LA. I expect in the country that has invented our sport, I expect 3x3 to really go to the next level in LA 28.
Okay, and one more focus on 3x3. Which are your region priorities for the development of 3x3 for the next year, please?
Regional development, certainly we want stronger South America, we want a stronger Brazil, and already Chile is leading the way in a very good way, but we want a stronger Argentina and Brazil. We want a stronger Mexico. So that in terms of Latin America, we want to see the west of Africa, and that is why Dakar will help us a lot. The east of Africa has already picked up. Rwanda is strong, Kenya is strong, and Madagascar is strong already, and Egypt. I would say that we need to make some further strides in Australia and New Zealand. They now understand it, and the qualification of Australia in Paris helped. And I would believe that these are the three axes of development, considering that East and Southeast Asia, as well as Europe, are very developed in 3x3 basketball, and of course, North America.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Patrick.
George.
Thank you, Mr. Zagklis.
And we will go back to the US, to Cleveland. Joe, as promised, we are coming back to you.
All right. So this is a little embarrassing for me. I didn't realize this until I got your press release from the board meeting last week that the LA Olympics are like a month earlier than what we're used to. And then I saw the schedule for when the Olympic qualifiers would be, and to me it seems really tight, really close between teams that are playing late in the playoffs and in the finals in the NBA, then the start of the Olympic calendar. Is that enough time? To the NBA finals this year ends July 22nd. Your qualifiers in 28 will start on the 26th. So is that enough time to properly have these qualifiers get ready for the Olympics, or is there any discussion with the NBA about slightly changing their calendar for that season?
Thank you. Joe, two factual perhaps clarifications. It was June, not July. You mentioned
Right.
July, yes, that the NBA season finishes and the OQTs would start. And it's not a month earlier, but it is 2 weeks earlier that LA 28 takes place. And it is within the window that IOC gives to organizers, but it is at the very start of the window. Yes, we've identified this issue together with the NBA already 3 years ago. And we've been raising this with both the hosts and the IOC. Of course, Paris was the priority. Now this is really on the table. It is quite simple for us, for the unfortunate reason that it's so tight, we have no other option but to play those dates. We cannot play later. It is too close to the Olympics, and we cannot play earlier because we don't have the availability of the players. And we will have conversations. I already informed the European leagues, and of course, once the board gives me the final okay in May, I will inform the leagues around the world to adjust their calendars. And the conversation with the NBA is there. I do not expect a major adjustment to their schedule. I have to be honest with you. But if it is a question of 1 or 2 or 3 days, we've always been collaborating well, and I think we will find good solutions. Not forgetting that and perhaps that is a dream of every Clippers fan, the team could be playing finals 3 weeks before the venue is converted into an Olympic facility, and the same goes for the crypto.com, where it will also host Olympic events, not basketball, but it will also have to be converted. The venues are not the issue. The issue is the welfare of the players and giving enough preparation for the teams. We could not affect the starting date of the Olympics, and we do not have a way or any intention to change the qualification format, for the simple reason that we qualify 8 teams, 7+, subject to decision of the board, the host, at the World Cup that finishes at the very front part of the season, 27-28, and we need to qualify the other 4 at the end of the season. And these 4 tournaments are fundamental for us. Why? Because we have only 12 in the Olympics. We cannot have a summer of the Northern Hemisphere. We cannot have a summer with just 12 teams around the world playing when we have 50, 60 top-level national teams now in the world. So we reduce to 4 tournaments of 6, which gives us 24, plus the 8 already qualified. That is the 32 group of countries that plays also the World Cup. So for us, there is no other choice. We have to play these dates, and we may have, as we mentioned, to sacrifice some of the perhaps experience of the players, because it's very difficult to decide 2 weeks before the Olympics where they will stay, in which national Olympic delegation they will stay. So they may have to stay in a separate precinct in UCLA campus, or they may have to stay in outside next to the Olympic Village. But I think with such a fundamental issue as the calendar, the players' exact location in the village or around the village is perhaps the secondary element here. The first is that LA28 can make it work from a logistics perspective, and the IOC as well, and that we prepare the players in their best in the best possible way. Understanding, of course, that half of the NBA stops in April, and not all of the teams go all the way to the finals, and from the finals we may have in the OQTs 2 or 3 or 4 players out of 12 times 24. So my personal concern, and we have to align also the European leagues and others, that they need to finish a week earlier. So as always, the year between World Cup and Olympics is an interesting one, and it will be a tight one. But we're discussing this in December 24, so we have, as you can see, in a professional way, taking care of things.
Thank you.
All good? Perfect. We can move to Jose Ramon at the buzzer. Still not at the buzzer. We still have a bit of time to accommodate a couple of questions more. So Jose, please get on the call so you can ask your question. We saw you for a split second, but you disappeared again.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes. Please go ahead and ask your question. Now we can't hear you anymore. Jose, can you hear us? Please ask your question.
Oh, we don't have sound.
Okay. So we'll go then to Basket Magazine in Italy. We have Elio De Falco, who should be the next ready to join and ask a question. Elio, can you hear us?
Oh, okay, can you hear me?
Yes, you're in, Elio.
Hello, Mr. Zagklis, nice to see you again. You talk about the statement by the IOC about the Russian teams, but in Europe there is a lot of concern about what is happening with Israeli teams. What about their inclusion in the competitions? And lots of concern. It was also in the buildings where, for example, Maccabi was playing as not local team. We want to know, what did the IOC talk about the situation and why the IOC is not treating the same way a very similar situation?
Thank you. First of all, as I mentioned, for Russia and Ukraine, we're very, very concerned about the situation there, and there are several lives being affected or being lost every day in the Middle East, and that also impacts members of the basketball family. When it comes to the decision of the IOC, I think the IOC is best placed to explain that. We are operating as an Olympic federation within a certain framework, and as I mentioned in the earlier question regarding Russia and Belarus, we're more focused on how we can bring, when the circumstances allow, everyone together on the court, rather than how we can exclude more countries. That is right now the mentality of the Central Board of FIBA. That is the orientation. That has been our DNA traditionally, bringing people on the court regardless of conflicts and politics. And this is what I believe we have been consistent on when it comes to the situation of Israel, Palestine, now Syria. And we've managed through a lot of operational work to make these teams play and to provide as much as possible safe conditions for the players themselves, for the delegations, as well as for their opponents. So For the moment, we are monitoring the situation, and we will continue on the same path that we have been. Of course, if IOC gives us different recommendations or guidelines or even instructions, we will have to make urgent FIBA meetings and take FIBA decisions accordingly. But I do not expect in the near future a FIBA decision that would change one way or the other unless we have developments on the side of the IOC.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elio. Next question, we have Muhammad Zishan Nawaz, who will join us from International Sports Gallery. Muhammad, you are on.
Hi, sir. How are you?
Hello.
And my question about unrepresented regions where can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. Please continue. Yes.
Yes. My question to you: where's underrepresented regions of basketballs, how to improve basketball underrepresented areas where basketball is very, very low, and how to improve you and your federation, FIBA? Can you tell me about this?
I guess your focus is on India, from what I understood from your question.
My question, I am from Pakistan, and I am asking about underrated countries like Pakistan,
I understand.
India.
I understand. Perhaps that was one of the topics I wanted to mention in the introduction. FIBA in 2024 and going into 2025 is putting together the biggest ever development support program for its federations. It is called FIBA Plus. The FIBA Plus program in 2024 assisted directly 112 national federations. And this goes from assistance in planning, in strategy, or with specific camps, clinics, know-how for coaches, for referees, officials, statisticians, table officials, all the levels of the sport, including the executives of the clubs. Next year, we believe we will be closer to 150 countries around the world. And this does not include the support given by our foundation, which covers another 100 countries. So we are now in the biggest investment ever in our history to our member federations. What I consider important is a good structure in the federation. You need professional staff that is not that is separate from the political staff, the political leadership. And certainly you need a good relationship with the government. These are two fundamental elements for every national federation everywhere in the world, from USA and Spain and France and Australia, all the way to the smaller member of FIBA. So with these elements and with the support of FIBA that we have ramped up, I do believe that the group of underrepresented is every year less represented, that it is smaller every year. So with the exception of perhaps 5-7 members that have very limited to no activity, in one way or another, we touch around 180 countries every year through 3x3 or basketball hall development.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Muhammad. And that was the last question of the day. So this press conference is coming to an end. Maybe Andreas, some closing words.
Yes, of course, with pleasure. And thank you for your attendance. Please remember 21 December is the World Basketball Day, as proclaimed by the United Nations. We will be not only celebrating it, but we'll also come out with the result of a study that was recently made by FIBA that gives a very good approximate of the global number of players, active players of basketball around the world. And my best wishes for this holiday season. Load on your phones the application Courts of the World and find a basketball court near you to really shoot some hoops with your friends and family. And of course, all the best from FIBA, from me, for this festive season. Thank you again for being with us today.
Thanks a lot, Andreas. Thanks a lot to all the colleagues that have helped to organize this now traditional press conference. Happy holidays to everyone, and hopefully see you next year around the court. All the best.
Thank you.